Captain Jake Miller stood on the bridge of the exploration ship USS Liberty. He watched the stars through the big window as his ship moved through space. The Liberty was doing normal space surveys far from Earth when something strange happened. Lieutenant Amy Brooks sat at her communication station. She suddenly sat up straight and turned to look at the captain. Her fingers moved quickly across her control panel. "Captain, we are getting a distress signal," Amy said. "It is coming from a star system called Kepler 442. That system is about 6 light-years away from where we are now." Jake walked over to look at Amy's screen. "Can you understand what the signal says?" Amy looked confused as she listened to her headset. "No, sir. It is not in any human language. The signal keeps repeating on many different frequencies. The computer thinks it sounds very urgent. It might be coming from many different sources." Commander Lisa Park was the ship's second in command. She walked over from the weapons control station. "Captain, our long-range sensors are picking up massive energy readings in that system. Whatever is out there must be very big." Jake thought about what they should do. The Liberty was a small exploration ship with only 180 crew members. It was built for science missions, not fighting. But they could not ignore a distress signal from someone who needed help. "Set course for Kepler 442, Jake ordered. "Maximum speed. Amy, keep listening to that signal and try to figure out how to talk to them." The Liberty changed direction toward the alien signal. Chief Engineer Pete Johnson called from the engine room to say their engines were working perfectly. The trip would take 18 hours at their fastest speed. During the long trip, Amy worked with Dr. Helen Carter to decode the alien messages. Dr. Carter was the ship's language expert. What they found was worrying. The signals had math patterns that clearly meant distress. The signals also had what looked like star map coordinates and energy readings. "Captain," Dr. Carter said as they got close to the system, "we have figured out a basic way to communicate using math. The being sending these signals are very advanced, but they are definitely in big trouble." When the Liberty came out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, the crew could not believe what they saw. Floating in space near a huge gas planet were the remains of what had once been a massive alien fleet. There were dozens of ships, each one much larger than anything humans had ever built. The ships drifted powerless in empty space. Some ships showed signs of bad damage, while others looked okay but had no lights or power. "Oh my God," Lisa whispered as she stared at the view screen. "What happened here?" Jake looked at the tactical display that showed all the ships. "Amy, are you still getting those distress signals?" "Yes, sir, but they are much weaker now. I can detect life signs on several of the ships, but their power levels are very low. They do not have much time left." Before Jake could say anything else, their sensors detected something new. 3 smaller alien ships were flying toward the Liberty very fast. Their weapon systems were turned on and ready to fire. "Red alert," Jake commanded. "Raise shields, but do not fire unless they attack us first." The 3 alien ships moved to surround the Liberty. They were clearly suspicious of the newcomers. Amy's console made a beeping sound as an incoming message arrived. "Captain, they are trying to talk to us," Amy reported. "I am putting it through the translation system we built." Strange electronic sounds filled the bridge. Then the computer changed the sounds into English words. "Unknown ship. Tell us why you are here. Are you working with the Vorthan Empire?" Jake looked at Lisa, who lifted her shoulders in confusion. Neither of them had ever heard of the Vorthan Empire. "Send our answer," Jake told Amy. "We are humans from the planet Earth. We heard your distress signals and came to help you. We do not know anything about this Vorthan Empire." There was a long silence before the reply came. "Humans? We have no information about your species in our databases. Why would you put yourselves in danger for strangers?" Jake smiled, but his expression was serious. "Because helping others is the right thing to do." The alien voice seemed surprised by this answer. "You would risk your lives for people you do not know?" "Yes," Jake said simply. "That is what humans do." Another long pause followed. The 3 alien ships continued to circle the Liberty, but their weapons were no longer aimed directly at the human ship. "Human captain," the alien voice finally said, I am Commander Zara of the patrol ship Nexus Dawn. Our main fleet was attacked by Vorthon forces 12 days ago. We have been stranded here since then. Our power systems are failing and we have over 200,000 people on these ships who will die if we cannot fix our engines soon. Jake felt his heart skip a beat. 200,000 lives. That was more than 1,000 times the number of people on his ship. Commander Zara, Jake said, we want to help you. What do you need us to do? Our biggest ship is called the Starfire Ascendant. It is commanded by Fleet Admiral Keth. She will want to speak with you directly. But I must warn you, human captain, the Vorthons may return to finish what they started. If you stay to help us, you will be putting your ship and crew in great danger. Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. Amy was still working on the communication systems. Lisa was studying the tactical displays. Pete's voice came over the intercom from engineering, reporting that all systems were ready. These people had signed up for exploration and discovery, not war. But they had also sworn to help others when they could. Commander Zara, Jake said, we understand the risks, but we cannot leave you here to die. Take us to Admiral Keth. Let us see what we can do to help. Very well, human captain. Follow us to the Starfire Ascendant. And Captain, thank you. Your willingness to help strangers may be the only thing that saves our people. As the Liberty followed the alien patrol ships toward the massive flagship, Jake wondered what they were getting themselves into. They were just one small exploration ship facing problems that had defeated an entire alien fleet. But somehow, he felt confident that they would find a way to help. After all, that was what humans did best, finding solutions to impossible problems. The alien patrol ship called Nexus Dawn guided the Liberty toward the biggest ship in the stranded fleet. As they got closer, Jake could see how huge the alien ships really were. The main ship was almost 5 kilometers long. Its surface was covered with beautiful flowing curves and crystal-like structures. Even though the ship was damaged from battle, it still looked amazing. Captain Miller, came a new voice through their translation system. I am Fleet Admiral Keth of the Altarian Republic. Your offer to help us is very surprising. We have been stuck here for 12 days after Vorthon forces attacked us. Jake stared at the massive ship through the window. Admiral Keth, what kind of help do you need? Our main power systems were damaged in the battle. We have very little life support left and no way to move our ships. Our engineers think that without repairs right away, we will lose life support in 48 hours. We have over 200,000 people on these ships. Jake felt shocked by the huge number. His entire ship had less than 200 people, and they were looking at more than 1,000 times that many lives in danger. Commander Lisa Park stepped closer to the communication panel. Admiral, we need to see the damage with our own eyes. Can you bring a small team of our engineers to your ship? We can transport you directly to our flagship, Admiral Keth replied. But I must warn you, human bodies may not work well in our environment. Dr. Sarah Kim was the Liberty's medical officer. She had been listening to everything. Captain, I have been studying their air readings. It is nitrogen and oxygen like Earth, but with higher pressure. We will need special suits, but we can handle it. Jake nodded. Admiral Keth, we are getting a team ready. Can you tell us exactly what we are dealing with? The alien transportation system was completely different from human technology. Instead of the usual tingling feeling of human transporters, it felt like gentle, invisible hands picked them up and set them down somewhere else. Admiral Keth met them in what looked like a huge hangar bay. She looked like a human, but was clearly alien. She stood almost 7 feet tall with long, graceful arms and legs. Her skin seemed to glow with a faint blue light. Her large, dark eyes showed both intelligence and desperate hope. Captain Miller, she said. Her real voice was like beautiful music that their translators changed into English. Welcome to the Starfire Ascendant. I must tell you, when we saw your small ship coming toward us, we were afraid you might be Vorthon spies. As they walked through the ship's hallways, Jake was amazed by what he saw. Everything seemed to flow naturally, as if the ship had been grown like a plant instead of built like a machine. But signs of trouble were everywhere. The lights were dim, failing systems made strange noises, and crew members worked desperately on repairs. Pete Johnson whistled quietly as they entered the main engineering area. Captain, this is incredible. Their power systems use some kind of controlled quantum fusion that I have never seen before. A tall Altarian engineer walked up to them. I am Chief Engineer Vex Nadir. Your engineer is right. Our power cores use quantum resonance fusion. But the Vorthon weapons caused cascade failures in the quantum matrix. We have not been able to restore full power. Pete looked at the massive crystal structures that seemed to pulse with weak energy. What happens if we cannot get them working again? Life support will fail, Vex said simply. And without engines, we cannot reach the nearest Altarian world before our supplies run out. Dr. Kim had been scanning the area with her medical scanner. Captain, I am detecting some kind of radiation that is not good for long exposure, but it is okay with our suits. Jake looked around at the alien faces, watching them with desperate hope. Pete, what do you think? Can we help them? The chief engineer was already studying the quantum cores with great interest. I am not sure, Captain. This technology is many years ahead of anything we have, but maybe that is actually good for us. What do you mean? Lisa asked. Pete smiled. Sometimes the best way to fix very advanced technology is with simple methods. In this case, maybe some good old human engineering tricks. Admiral Keth looked confused by the translation. Simple methods? I do not understand. He means creative problem solving, Jake explained. Humans are good at finding unusual solutions to difficult problems. We will try anything, Admiral Keth said. We have used up all our normal repair methods. Pete started looking more closely at the alien power systems. Jake thought about how strange this first meeting between humans and aliens was. Earth's diplomats had always imagined formal meetings and careful talks. Instead, they were jumping straight into a life-or-death rescue mission. But as Jake watched his chief engineer work with the Altarian technical team, already drawing possible solutions, even though they had trouble talking to each other, he realized that maybe this was exactly the right way for humans to make their first impression on the galaxy. Admiral, Jake said, our engineer will need some time to study your systems. How long do we have before the situation becomes critical? 36 hours, Captain Miller. After that, our life support systems will begin failing on the smaller ships first. Pete looked up from the crystal power cores. Admiral, can you show me what the Vorthon weapons did exactly? I need to understand the damage pattern. Vex Nadir led them to a damaged section of the engineering area. Twisted metal and cracked crystals showed where enemy weapons had struck. The Vorthon disruptor beams create quantum interference. They tune their weapons specifically to disrupt our power matrix frequencies. Interesting, Pete said, running his hands over the damaged crystals. They knew exactly how to hurt your systems. This was not random damage. You are correct, Admiral Keith said. The Vorthons have been studying our technology for years, preparing for this attack. Jake felt a chill as he realized what this meant. Admiral, if they planned this attack so carefully, they might come back to finish what they started. That is our greatest fear, Captain Miller. If the Vorthons return while we are still powerless, they will destroy every ship and every person in this fleet. The weight of responsibility settled on Jake's shoulders. They were not just trying to fix alien technology. They were racing against time to save 200,000 lives before an enemy fleet returned to destroy them all. Chief Engineer Pete Johnson had been working for 16 hours straight. He worked with the Altarian engineering teams on many different ships. What he learned both amazed and frustrated him. The alien technology was much more advanced than human systems, but it was also very specialized and delicate. The problem, Pete explained to Captain Miller during a short break, is that their whole power system depends on these quantum resonance cores. When the Vorthons hit them with some kind of disruptor weapon, it created a cascade failure that messed up all the quantum frequencies. Can you explain that in simple words, Pete? Jake asked. Think of it like a piano where all the strings have been knocked out of tune, but you need perfect harmony to make any sound at all. Their engineering teams have been trying to tune each core one by one, but they keep interfering with each other. Commander Lisa Park leaned forward with interest. So what is your solution? Pete's smile was tired but confident. We are going To bypass the quantum resonance completely and jumpstart their cores using our own fusion reactors. Dr. Sarah Kim looked doubtful. Is that even possible? Our technology is much simpler compared to theirs. That is exactly why it might work, Pete replied. Their systems are so advanced that they cannot work with any problems. But our fusion reactors are basically controlled explosions. They are crude, but they are also very strong and reliable. Admiral Keth had been listening through the translation. Link. She sounded confused. Chief Johnson, our power needs are enormous. Your small ship's reactors could never provide enough energy to restart our quantum cores. You are right, Pete admitted. The Liberty's reactors alone could not do it. But we are not going to use just the Liberty. Jake raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? I mean we are going to connect every working fusion reactor in this entire fleet, both human and Altarian, and create one massive power surge. It will either restart their quantum cores or destroy everything in a spectacular explosion. The silence that followed was frightening. Pete, Lisa said carefully. When you say spectacular explosion, how big are we talking? Well, if I am wrong about the resonance frequencies, we might accidentally create a small black hole. Dr. Kim put her hand on her forehead. And if you are right, then we save 200,000 lives and make humanity look like heroes to an advanced alien civilization. Admiral Keth's voice came through the communication system with what sounded like amusement. Chief Johnson, in Altarian culture we have a saying, only the desperate or the crazy attempt the impossible. Which are you? Pete laughed. Probably both, Admiral, but that is what makes us human. The next 12 hours were a frantic time of preparation. Pete worked with engineering teams across the fleet, installing human-designed power coupling systems that could handle the massive energy transfer. Meanwhile, Amy Brooks coordinated communications between dozens of ships, creating a synchronized countdown system. Dr. Helen Carter had made an important discovery about language that proved very helpful. Captain, I have found that the Altarian language has mathematical principles built right into its grammar. That is why they are so good with quantum mechanics. Their entire way of thinking is naturally suited to complex calculations. That is interesting, Doctor, but how does it help us right now? Jake asked. It means they can understand Pete's plan better than we can. When he talks about resonance frequencies and power coupling harmonics, they do not just hear the words. They actually see the mathematical relationships in their minds. This discovery was the key to gaining the aliens' trust. As Pete's plan was explained in more detail, the Altarian engineers began to see not just how bold the human approach was, but also how mathematically elegant it could be. Chief Engineer Vex Nadir came to Pete as the final preparations were being made. Human, Johnson, I have studied your proposal very carefully. The mathematics are unusual, but they are sound. However, I must ask, have your people ever attempted anything of this size? Pete looked out at the massive alien ships surrounding them. Their hulls were dark and lifeless. Vex, 300 years ago, my people were still learning how to make fire. 50 years ago, we barely had spaceflight. And yesterday, we did not even know you existed. Attempting the impossible is kind of what humans do. The Altarian engineer's expression was hard to read, but his body language suggested respect. Your species is either very brave or very foolish. Usually both, Pete replied. Sometimes that works out for us. As the countdown began, Jake found himself on the bridge of the Liberty. He was surrounded by displays showing power levels from dozens of ships. Every working fusion reactor in the fleet, human and alien alike, had been connected together. In theory, they would create a synchronized power surge that would restart the Altarian quantum cores without destroying everything in the process. All stations report ready, Amy announced. Network synchronization at 99.7%. Admiral. Keth, Jake called out. Are your people ready? As ready as one can be for such a thing, Captain Miller. Whatever happens, know that the Altarian Republic will remember this day. Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. These were humans who had volunteered for a deep space exploration mission, and instead found themselves trying to rescue an alien armada using improvised technology and pure audacity. "Begin power transfer sequence," Jake ordered. The lights dimmed throughout the Liberty as their fusion reactors increased to maximum output. Through the window, Jake could see similar power buildups happening across the alien fleet as their backup. Systems joined the network. "Power coupling stable," Pete reported from engineering. "Energy transfer beginning in 3, 2, 1. The space around them suddenly blazed with energy as dozens of fusion reactors poured their power into the Altarian quantum cores. For a terrifying moment, Jake thought they had failed. The energy discharges were so massive that the ships themselves seemed to be tearing apart. Then one by one, the alien vessels began to come alive. Lights flickered on, then became steady. The massive crystalline power cores began to pulse with renewed energy, and across the fleet the sound of cheering could be heard through the communication channels. "It worked," Lisa breathed. "Pete, you crazy genius, it actually worked." But their celebration did not last long. Amy's console suddenly lit up with urgent warnings. "Captain," she announced, "we are receiving multiple signals from the edge of the system. Long-range sensors detect 15 ships approaching at high speed." Admiral Keth's voice came through the communication system, now strong and clear with her ship's power fully restored. "Captain Miller, those are Vorthan warships. They must have detected our power signature. They are coming to finish what they started." Jake looked at the tactical display. 15 enemy warships against one small human exploration vessel and an alien fleet that was still recovering from their repairs. "Well," he said grimly, "I guess we are about to find out what humans can do in a real fight." The approaching Vorthan fleet looked terrifying. 15 warships designed for destruction moved toward them through space. Their dark hulls were covered with weapon systems that had already proven they could destroy the Altarian Armada. Captain Jake Miller stood on the bridge of the Liberty, studying the tactical display while his crew worked quickly to prepare for battle. Around them, the Altarian fleet was powering up their weapons and defense systems, but many ships were still running. "Checks after the emergency power restoration. Captain," Commander Lisa Park reported, "the Altarians are asking for our tactical information. They want to include the Liberty in their battle formation." Jake almost laughed. "Lisa, we are an exploration ship with very few weapons. What exactly are we supposed to do in a fleet battle?" Before Lisa could answer, Admiral Keth's voice came through the communication system. "Captain Miller, I do not expect your small ship to fight directly with Vorthan battleships. However, your Chief Johnson has made a request that I find very interesting." Pete Johnson's voice came over the internal communication from engineering. "Captain, I have been looking at the sensor data from the Vorthan ships. Their weapon systems work on similar principles to the ones that damage the Altarian quantum cores." "What does that mean, Pete?" "It means they probably have similar weaknesses. If we can create the right kind of interference pattern, we might be able to disrupt their weapons just like their weapons disrupted the Altarian power systems." Admiral Keth's flagship, the Starfire Ascendant, moved to fly alongside the Liberty. Through the window, Jake could see the massive alien ship's weapon ports opening. The energy cannons looked like they could destroy his entire ship with a single shot. "The Vorthans will be within firing range in 18 minutes, Admiral Keth announced. "Captain Miller, if your engineer's plan has any chance of working, now is the time to try it." What happened next was the most frantic 18 minutes in the Liberty's history. Pete Johnson worked with Chief Engineer Vex Nadir to modify the ship's deflector array to send out a specific frequency pattern. Meanwhile, Dr. Helen Carter and Amy Brooks worked together to coordinate targeting data between human and Altarian systems. "It is not going to be pretty," Pete warned over the communication system. "We will have to get close enough to the Vorthan ships to make sure the interference pattern works, but not so close that they destroy us before we can disrupt their weapons." "How close is close enough?" Jake asked. "About 3,000 kilometers. Lisa Park looked up from her tactical station. "Pete, their main weapons can hit targets from 50,000 kilometers away. You are asking us to fly into the middle of a fleet battle." "That is the idea," Pete replied cheerfully. "The Altarians will keep them busy while we dart in and scramble their targeting systems." As the Vorthan fleet got closer, Jake got his first clear look at the enemy. The Vorthan ships were angular and predatory, built for war rather than the flowing beauty of Altarian design. Their formation was tight and disciplined, showing military experience and tactical skill. "Vorthan Fleet Commander is sending a message," Amy reported. "Should I put it through the translator?" "Let us hear what they have to say," Jake decided. A harsh mechanical voice filled the bridge. "Altarian vessels, you are ordered to surrender immediately. Your republic has violated Vorthan territorial space. Comply or be destroyed." Admiral Keth's response was immediate and defiant. "Vorthan. Commander, the Altarian Republic recognizes no Vorthan territorial claims in this sector. We were chasing raiders who attacked our mining colonies when your forces ambushed us. We will not surrender." "Then you will die," the Vorthan commander replied. "All vessels, open fire." The space around them exploded with violence. The Vorthan ships unleashed devastating energy attacks that lit up the darkness like artificial stars. The Altarian fleet responded with their own weapons, creating a light show that was both beautiful and terrifying. "Liberty, execute approach pattern Alpha," Admiral Keth commanded. "We will provide covering fire." Jake gripped his command chair as his ship dove into the battle. The Liberty was fast and maneuverable compared to the larger warships, but she was also fragile. Energy blasts that the big ships could survive would destroy her instantly. "Vorthan weapons are targeting us," Lisa announced. 3 ships breaking formation to stop us." "Let them come," Jake replied. "Pete, how long do you need?" "Give me 30 seconds at optimal range with each target." 30 seconds felt like 30 years in the middle of a space battle. The Liberty twisted and dove between the massive warships. Lieutenant Kevin Torres, their pilot, flew with incredible skill. Energy blasts filled the space around them, some passing so close that the ship's hull glowed from the heat. "First target bearing 27 Mark IV, Lisa called out. "Range 4,000 kilometers and closing." "Starting interference pattern," Pete announced. The Liberty's deflector array began sending out complex energy pulses. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the Vorthan ship's weapons suddenly went dark. Their energy signatures started fluctuating wildly. "It is working!" Amy shouted. "Their targeting systems are offline." The Altarian ships immediately took advantage, focusing their fire on the disabled Vorthan vessel. Within minutes, the enemy ship was drifting powerless, its weapon systems completely scrambled. "Second target, bearing 91 Mark VI, Lisa reported. But the Vorthans had learned from their first loss. The remaining ships changed their formation, trying to prevent the Liberty from getting close enough to disrupt their systems. Energy blasts surrounded the small human ship as it darted between the larger vessels. "Hull breach on Deck 7, Dr. Kim reported from sickbay. "We have casualties." "Shields down to 30%, Lisa added. Jake made a command decision that would be talked about by military historians for years. Instead of pulling back to safety, he ordered the Liberty deeper into the enemy formation. "Kevin, take us right through the middle of their fleet. Full speed." "Captain, that is suicide," Lisa protested. "No," Jake replied. "That is human." The Liberty shot through the Vorthan formation like a meteor. Her deflector array broadcast interference patterns at every enemy ship she passed. One by one, the Vorthan weapon systems began failing. Their sophisticated targeting computers could not handle the chaotic energy patterns the humans were creating. But the gamble came at a cost. As the Liberty came out from the enemy formation, her hull was scarred by dozens of near misses. Her shields were gone, and her engines were working at barely 50% efficiency. "Captain," Pete called from engineering, "I do not think we can do that again. The deflector array is overloaded, and we are venting plasma from 3 different systems." Jake looked at the tactical display. Of the 15 Vorthan ships, 8 were now drifting powerless, their weapons offline. But the remaining 7 were regrouping, and they looked angry. "Admiral Keth," Jake called out, "we have done what we can. It is up to you now." What followed was the most one-sided battle in recorded galactic history. The Altarian fleet, no longer facing overwhelming firepower, systematically disabled or destroyed the remaining Vorthon ships. Within an hour, the battle was over. As rescue operations began and the extent of their victory became clear, Admiral Keth contacted the Liberty. "Captain Miller," she said, "in all the military histories of the Altarian Republic, there is no record of such courage from such a small force. You flew a single ship against an entire fleet to save strangers you had never met." Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. These were humans who had signed up for exploration, and instead found themselves changing the course of galactic history. "Admiral," he replied, "that is just what humans do." 6 months later, the story of humanity's first contact had spread throughout the galaxy. The tale of the stranded Altarian Armada and the small human ship that saved them became legend. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not through conquest or superior technology, but through courage and the willingness to help others. The galaxy would never be the same,